Okay, we've had a quick intro. My name's Jake. I'm co-founder of the Conscious Advertising Network and co-chair, also MD of Media Bounty. I'm going to go down the panel to introduce themselves, but first of all, apologies from Tom Mills. His son is having an operation this morning, so unfortunately he can't be with us. So I'll pass it to Dinah first of all. We've got a lot to get through, so we're going to try and rattle through everything, okay?
Hi, my name's Dinah. I am the founder and CEO of Avenir Network. I'm also on the advisory board for BRIM, which stands for Black Representation in Marketing. I am the key trainer for NABS's inclusive marketing. It's inclusive leadership, but I do cover marketing too, and their time to training as well. So yeah, over to you, Jennie.
Hi, I'm Jennie King. I'm the interloper on this panel, the non-industry member of this panel. I'm here from an organisation called the Institute for Strategic Dialogue that works on monitoring extremist ideologies and sort of the erosion of public life in terms of disinformation and hate. And I specifically work on climate change, online climate change conspiracies. And I'm also the co-chair of research at Climate Action Against Disinformation, which is a coalition that Jake and I both helped to found.
My name is Daykin. I'm the global head of media at an alcohol company called Suntory, which is like Jim Beam and Suntory. If you don't know the company in the UK, we also own Lucozade Ribena, which is usually when people start nodding.
Which goes well with Suntory?
Not with Suntory, maybe with Jim Beam.
Okay.
And then I also sit on Conscious Advertising Network with Jake, and I also sit on the WFA's Global Diversity and Inclusion Task Force.
Cool, so we'll get cracking. We've got a lot to cover. We've got DE&I in the industry, we've got the outrage economy, we've got climate change and AI. So a few things to cover just in the 20 minutes, and we'll try our best. I've asked everybody to keep it quick, so I better shut up and keep it quick myself. So starting, first of all, you know, this MadFest this year is Riders of the Storm. There's a lot of storms going on. We wanted to first turn to inside the industry, and recently the All-In census came out in this country, and then the WFA work as well. So, Dinah, I wanted to ask you about some of the three sort of conscious steps and what that All-In census, said, and three conscious steps for brands and agencies that they can take from this now.
Yeah, so great question. The Ad Association's All-In census was released back in May. It's the biggest survey that's been done for the marketing and advertising industry. Second time it's been done, 2 years ago was the first one, and it was over 18,000 respondents, of which 20%, so 1 in 5, said that they were likely to leave the industry in the next year, either for better opportunities or higher pay. Now, no one can really afford to do that in this time, but I think that when I talk to organisations within the industry about how they can create more inclusive cultures, the three things that I really talk to them about is A, having a higher purpose, so a purpose more than just profits. So how do you put people before profits and combine the two? Conscious leadership, so really thinking about being more empathetic and bringing in emotional intelligence and self-awareness, and moving away from the I to the we and really bringing people in, but also then looking at the conscious culture of an organisation. And by that I'm talking about how do you keep people involved, included, inspired and interested. If you can kind of look at those three, we can really look at the retention of the younger generation. So a majority of those respondents were 16 to 34. We need to keep them within our industry, and if we take those three facts into consideration, I think we stand a much better chance of engaging with them, because people want purpose to the work that they're doing.
Thanks, Dinah. And from an advertiser point of view, Jerry, you know, Dinah's talked about the whole industry. How important is that sort of, the findings of this work? It's the second year, isn't it? This has been done. Yeah. So for you, as leading, the media of Suntory client side, what does that mean to you?
I mean, to an extent, you can't avoid the fact that advertisers sit at the top of the tree and shape a lot of what matters, what doesn't matter. If you're not asking for stuff in your pictures, if you're not demanding certain standards of your clients, then it's, you can't necessarily expect those things to happen, and it's also massively empowering for an agency or a media owner to be asked for that in a brief, because it means the people who are fighting for D&I in those businesses can say, hang on, our clients are asking for that. This is a business opportunity. We all work in business. And the blunt truth of both the All-In and the WFA surveys, they show that we haven't improved very much or at all over the last 2 years. There were seeds of hope. People are definitely seeing initiatives, seeing what they think are things that are going to make a change. And 1 in 5 sounds bad enough. If you dig into any sort of minority group, like ethnic minority, LGBT, it gets like 1 in 7, 1 in 8.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and maybe that sounds better. Anyway, the stats get worse. I feel I'm not good at maths though right now. The stats get worse, and I think one of the great things that both the All-In team in the UK have done, and actually to an extent done very globally, is they're starting to work on an action plan, and the All-In action plan really, it's nice to say how do we fix diversity generally, but actually I think you really need to look at like different people's life experience. Is it class you're trying to fit? Is it accessibility? And really deep dive into that. So some combination of we need to work together as an industry, as brands, we need to work with our agencies, work with ourselves to make that happen, and follow some of those like specific action plans. What are the actual specific groups we're going to help in this? And we need to help everyone, but you need to focus as you do that.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting what you said about like brands setting the agenda, because ultimately agencies, ad tech partners, everybody here are responding to those briefs, right? So if the agenda and the ethical frameworks are set right at the top from a brand level, then, as you said, you change the competitive landscape in terms of the pitching for that work. So looking outside the industry and internally in the industry, so looking at our influence and how we work and our influence in society. Jennie, you've talked a lot about the outrage economy and what's happening across both digital platforms and legacy media, and how that is funded by the advertising ecosystem. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by the outrage economy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly consensus position now that the internet runs on advertising money. Social media does, as well as legacy media. And what that means is that a lot of companies have optimized for engagement. That is the bottom line of what they're working towards. And their business proposition is about retaining engagement for users. Now, if you're going to create an environment that is most likely to both maintain eyeballs, but also to generate higher forms of engagement, so different layers of engagement, likes, comments, reshares, then what we've seen happen in the evolution of these spaces is that you optimize for incendiary content, mis and disinformative content, and more content that touches upon hate speech or even forms of radicalization to violence and extremism. So brands might not see their relationship to that equation, because they say, well, we're just advertising on these platforms, we're doing a relatively sanitized version of marketing on the spaces that are available and that are important for us. But the reality is that by creating this dynamic where platforms and where legacy media, their ultimate priority is to keep people engaged and to retain attention, what that has bred is this economy of outrage, and that there are now really thousands of people around the world who are profiteering off that model. So they understand the kind of grift of being online, that they can generate advertising revenue for themselves through their YouTube channels, through their online presence, through creating disinformation outlets, and that will be supported by this ecosystem of advertising.
And that's only getting worse, isn't it? Because there's been reports of, made for advertising sites literally set up to take brands' money and wherever that then goes. There's been the question of the unknown delta of 15% of programmatic ads going, we don't know, where do they go? Where does that money go? And also there's news coming of blue tick and verified users of Twitter now profit sharing as creators as well, and we all know the direction that Twitter has gone in over the last 6 months. So again, for advertisers, Joey, how do you unpick this sort of the mass of places that you can advertise on online? How do you unpick all of these emerging problems?
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, there are different sides. I think one of the answers is that programmatic is not the answer to everything. It might offend some people in this this conference. There are many good times where you want to work directly with partners, where you want to be really set, or you want to work programmatically, you want to really, really pick the partners and the placements you're working with. That's not always right for every brand, that's not always right for every business. It's always going to be times when you're buying like a wider audience. I think there you need to be uncomfortable. You need to accept that those sort of stats you're hinting at, that they're not okay. It's not okay that you just kind of like lose a third of your money somewhere into like some sites you don't like, or down the back of the sofa. Like that's, if it was your own money, I think we would all be quite pissed off by that. The fact that it looks like some sort of rounding error on some spreadsheet you get is not okay. I think in particular it's a push to just think one step further. I think over the last 5 years we've had some good stuff around like viewability, around there's obviously a lot of talk about attention, etc. at the moment. All that is good. Like a made for advertising website can do really well on those numbers. Like it can have really good better attention than like the front page of the Wall Street Journal, because it's built to make you stay there. So you have to go one step further. You have to, ask for site lists. If you run a programmatic campaign, you've never asked for a site list from your agency, you're doing something wrong. And even if you've no idea what those site lists, simple thing, if that site list is like 30,000 sites, you're doing something wrong. And a lot of site lists are. So I think it's starting asking those questions. To my point about D&I more generally, making sure your agency knows you care about this. If you don't care, if you don't ask, they don't optimize towards it for the most part. So ask questions, start digging into it. And you can get things better. Back at GSK, where if Tom was here, I used to work, and he would have said when they did that ISBA audit, they asked a lot of these questions. They'd done the CAN audit of their work, and they came top in that work. I mean, they still had a sliver that they weren't sure where it went, but it was a small sliver because they'd asked these questions. Thanks, Tom.
So as Tom would say, ask better questions. Everybody in the room should be asking better questions rather than just, reach, frequency, KPIs, where are my 30,000 sites, for example. You should be asking questions about, well, which sites am I actually going to be in, and therefore what am I going to fund? Right, another massive topic alongside the outrage economy and hate speech and stuff, and where is our advertising funding and where are we losing our money, is obviously the emerging climate threat. Emerging, it's been a threat for a very long time. The IPCC came out in their synthesis report saying that we have a brief and rapidly closing window to secure a livable and sustainable future for all. Why we are not talking about that a hell of a lot more is terrifying to me, because we're all running around, selling lots of stuff, and yet we are absolutely looking at the future in a pretty difficult way. So I wanted to ask Jennie, in dealing with this issue on climate, we all need to be on the same page of what actually the science says and what possibly we can do about it. But there is the emerging threat of climate mis and disinformation and greenwashing. I saw hashtag climate scam trending again on Twitter earlier this week. So, can you tell us a little bit about that, how it's linked into this outrage economy as well?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, climate is just the latest victim, really, in a series of policy issues that have become co-opted into identity politics and the culture wars. And as that happens, it becomes another axis of the outrage economy, because people realise that by posting, unsubstantiated claims, outright conspiracies, old school forms of climate denialism, they can now benefit from the grift, the online grift. And there is a cohort of people who refer to themselves as the intellectual dark web. So they've sort of cultivated their brand as being contrarians. Their role online is to promote things that are against the consensus position or against the so-called mainstream media. And they're exactly the kind of people on these platforms that are monetizing their content and also are working with they're gaming that system, they're gaming the fact that advertising is promoting this system in order to make a business model out of this, a sustainable business model.
There are, though, sort of a lot of, there's a lot of work going into this, and Dinah, I know that we talked about the ASA and decisions making on greenwashing.
Yeah.
I'm sort of conscious I'm being told that we've got 3 minutes left, so I know we've got a very short answer question at the end. So, what do you think about these ASA rulings?
I'm a fan. We need to see kind of more of that. I think that within our industry, we have a great responsibility around and in the position of storytelling. So we need to make sure that those stories are truthful and that they are informative and that we are influencing the general public with information that is true. So I'd like to see more of this. Shell may be doing great stuff, but they are also not doing great stuff, and they need to be really open about what that percentage share looks like. And I would welcome the rest of the industry to use our influence to ensure that we are sharing that information appropriately and correctly.
Great. I really encourage people to look at the ASA's work, because they are literally world leading now in this, in terms of banning ads on not just on the basis of substantiation, but also omission and cherry picking as well. So it's not just Shell, it's Anglian Water, it's Lufthansa, it's Innocent, it's a lot of brands that have been caught out here. So you can really, get caught out, but it's also a huge opportunity. Last question, and it's literally good or bad. Everybody here will be talking about AI in advertising. Good or bad? Dinah?
Bad. If the people that are creating it have biases, it will just continue to spiral and build those biases. So the hate that we're seeing for marginalised communities will continue. Bad for me, unless we have frameworks to ensure that the right people, as we said, the right people influence the work. They need to be involved from the beginning.
Jennie?
Shocker, bad, because the hyper-personalised web that can be enabled through AI is not necessarily a good thing, because it puts people on individualised pathways that you can't track and you don't know where they're going to end up.
Jerry.
I want to say good just to be different, but I'm not sure I agree. I think in the long run, there's lots of good things that can come out of AI. It won't necessarily destroy our jobs. We're in society in its own, but I think a lot of the ways we're starting are probably quite bad.
Yeah.
Training at all the bad habits we've had before and repeating mistakes we've made. So we need some strong leadership to get to maybe hopefully a good place, or might just destroy society.
Okay, so on that note, so programmatic is not the answer for everything. We've got AI may destroy society unless we put governance around it, and conscious leadership, so asking better questions of your entire value chain, of your entire supply chain, to make sure your values are baked into your ethical supply system. I'd like to thank Dinah, I'd like to thank Jennie, I'd like to thank Jerry, and also the absent Tom, who was going to contribute to this panel. Thank you all for coming, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's thank Jake as well. Thank you to our panel. Appreciate it.